and the beers in the air.
Hey guys, it's Tsuki, and yeah, VM's not here. So as the title of the video says, yeah, this is just me talking about this as, well, I will admit it's actually been probably about 3 to 4 weeks since I actually watched the series Attack on Titan. But the reason that for that long of a wait for me to talk about it is because I was trying to have this be me and VM talk about this, but pretty much he hasn't gotten around to it. I don't know if he is going to get around to it, and if he ever does, he can make his own video on it. He can talk about it. I'm not going to speak for him on his opinions on anything. So with that, let me go into what I thought of this series. And I know that, you know, this is, yeah, it's gonna be one of those videos where, you know, I've got to reiterate, I'm not gonna make everybody happy. You know, not everybody's gonna agree with me and things like that. I mean, I will say, it was a good show. It was definitely good. Was it like the greatest thing that happened to anime? No, I really can't say that. And again, I think the reason I'm starting to think that is because I've watched so much anime now that it's kind of, I don't know, I might be starting to get into that jaded phase, but I really don't want to get to that phase. I still love anime. I wish I could devote more time to it. I am trying to do that. I don't know. I may start just doing more and more reviews on my own. That may be how we start doing the review stuff on here. It's just me and him doing them separately as we watch certain shows. So I don't know. But with that, you know, that's me getting off on a tangent. You know, as if that's anything new to people who follow the channel. We're here to talk about Attack on Titan, and yeah, I think it's a good show. I definitely thought that, you know, there was a solid cast here, and pardon me if I look off to the side, you know, off this way, but I've got the cast list up here just in case I screw up a name or something like that. So, you know, you got your main 3 characters, which is, let's see, Marina, Yui, are those really the 3? Oh, whoops. I was saying the voice actors' names. I forgot. Armin, Mikasa, and Eren. Oh man, some people were probably yelling at me already right there. Sorry, I'm looking at the cast listing, so I've got the voice actors too. But yeah, you got Armin, Mikasa, and Eren, all living in, you know, the town. They'd be, you know, pretty much 100 years after the initial Titans attack, and, you know, humanity is now down to, I forget the figure. I think it was like, I don't think it was 1 million. I think it was down to like 100,000 humans or something like that. It was something like that. It's either 100,000 or like 1 million. I can't remember. If I remember to do so, I'll add it in here. But you know, you guys probably know me at this point. I'd probably just leave it to you guys to tell me in the comments. But yeah, you have these 3. They're just sort of there, and you're like, you know, that everybody. It's kind of an interesting thing where obviously most of humanity is now comfortable in this situation where they think that nothing bad can happen because the city that they're in has the giant walls, and they think that have kept the Titans out for 100 years, and you know, nobody, and pretty much all the regular townsfolk are just like, oh, we're totally safe here. We don't need to worry about anything. We can, and it's sort of like, you know, humanity falling into sort of the negative aspects, I guess you could say, of humanity when peacetime comes around, that suddenly there's no big issue to focus on, so they start looking at each other and finding all these issues, and kind of like how the society is really kind of messed up, where you have like the royals all like way back behind 3 walls that, you know, they're well protected. They don't have to worry about anything. They have all the privilege, and then you have, you know, people out on the outer walls who you know, they don't really have to worry anything either, but they're just, you know, they're completely out. They're like almost disconnected from the society. So it's kind of I mean, there is an interesting world here, and I give the anime so much credit for that. as far as the look goes, I really do give them credit for that too. The look of the world is very neat. Where I guess the idea is supposed to be that, you know, maybe this is a time where humanity had advanced a lot, but because of the Titans, suddenly they're kind of thrown back into sort of, kind of want to call it medieval style homes, but not really. They kind of, honestly, I think honestly the housing kind of does, and I think it is intentional. Kind of reminds me more of like, you know, like if you've ever looked at a video of like smaller towns in like Italy and things like that. Like I think that was the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like Central European town sort of thing. But you know, it's kind of neat to kind of go back to that. And there's not really a whole lot of, well, there's not a major level of technology. Like obviously there's not computers or anything like that. But I mean, they have obviously, you know, focused the technology on dealing with, you know, Titans and how to combat them, which does lead to one really cool piece of technology in the show, which is the what are they called, the three-dimensional moving device, or something like a three-dimensional device. Those are really cool, and I do like how they're used. How, you know, I guess in a way it's sort of like, here, if you ever want to be Spider-Man, here you go. That's probably a really bad comparison, but the fact is that how you move around with these things, and it's just so cool to see them used. Just to see people go back and forth, and it's, you know, it is obviously, and although of course the only real drawback is that it is really obviously designed to be in, like, you know, the woods or a city area. It's obviously designed to fight in that kind of environment, which I think they kind of show off a little bit from when they do fight some of the Titans out in the open. It does kind of show how you know, how much of a disability that is, even though, you know, they still use them to, you know, they obviously still use them to climb the Titans, and you know, they do make do with what they have, and there's obviously talent there to figure out how to do that. You know, but it is pretty, I mean, it's, you know, obvious that it's more of a, you know, kind of crowded area device, and I really do like that. And, you know, this is, you know, I could probably go on for a while just talking about that. Just, you guys might not know this, but originally in high school I wanted to go into engineering. Then my grades sucked, and I ended up having to do something else. But I've always enjoyed things like, you know, looking at technology and just seeing how those, you know, seeing things like this. I think that's one of the things I really like about this show, is just seeing them use this device and seeing how it worked, and you know, how it could be used like too much, and how, you know, how it could be used improperly, how it took the time to get used to it and everything. I really enjoy seeing stuff like that. So that's probably one of the big points of the show. It's just it's pretty much the combat, just because I like seeing them use the devices. I like seeing how they combat these things with those devices. Let me see what else. Let's see. I guess we need to talk a little bit about the characters. By the way, I am trying to avoid spoilers, because I will say the show definitely comes off as you have to watch it for yourself to decide if you like it or not. Like, I watched it, I liked it. I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not gonna, you know, obviously there's gonna be jokes and stuff that I'll laugh at and stuff like that. That people make it about that, but you know, I'm not fanboying over it. It was just another really good show that I watched. You know, trying to think of what else I could really say as far as that part goes, but yeah, but pretty much that's the whole thing. Is that I think this is one of those where you have to kind of watch it yourself to really get if you're going to enjoy this. Because I mean, it is dark at times. It is very dark at times. There's some, I don't want to say issues with storytelling. I can't really say there was major issues with the storytelling. There's like a few things where it just feels like maybe there could have been a little bit more time spent on that, but I don't know, maybe they just didn't feel like they had the ability to do that. There is one issue I have, and that's with the ending, but you know what, I'll save that for later. for now, let me get back on track with how I was going to do this. Let's talk about the characters. So, Eren Yeager is our main character. Well, I guess he's like the main of the main characters. Like he's the one that this series is supposed to focus on, and he's obviously, he's one of the few people that he really wants to just be outside the walls, which is I can understand some people in that situation would really want to do that and just want to know the outside world, because they've obviously been trapped inside there for their entire lives, and they just want to see what's out there. They just want to know, hey, why are we stuck in here? So I do appreciate Eren's character on that. And obviously he also does have some, he has, I guess you could call them anger issues. It's not really anger issues. It's he's very dedicated to the people, or I guess you could call him loyal. Yeah, he's very loyal to the people around him. Like his best friend Armin. His best friend Armin is definitely, he's very loyal to him because the two of them share that link of wanting to research the outside world and wanting to know about these things. And because of that, he doesn't let anybody, he tries to keep people from, really messing with him, and he'll stand up to him. Then you have Mikasa, who is kind of I guess it's Eren's adopted sister, I'd say, because there's a whole backstory with her family and how she ends up coming into Eren's family. But she's basically the sister character to Eren at this point, and they have a very interesting dynamic where obviously she's very protective of him, and she's gotten really strong to be able to do that, be able to protect him, and Eren feels like no, I should be able to defend myself. And I think the reason I like this dynamic in this case is because they don't play it off as like a gender role sort of thing. Because a lot of times when this sort of thing happens, the guy will obviously be like, hey, I'm a man, I have to be able to defend myself. In this case, that's not really addressed. It's not really focused on. And that's one of the things I appreciate, is that it's more of just, hey, it's more of a, hey, I'm standing up for my family. No, I should be able to defend myself. I should be able to defend myself. I shouldn't need to rely on others. Not because I'm a man, not because you're a woman and you're defending me. It's more of just, it's just more of a pride thing, where he's very, well, maybe, yeah, pride, not, excuse me, not really ego, but he's very much proud of himself. He's very proud of his ideals in the ideas of wanting to go outside and just wanting to be his own person. And it's just really neat to sort of see how that, I guess you could say, that proud demeanor is sort of broken into. It's really broken into throughout the series, where he has to learn to kind of, where he can have these ideals, but he has to learn that they're ideals. He can't let them run his life. There's plenty of moments where he has to realize that this way of thinking that he's always had is not always the right way to think about things. That they can lead to the opposite of what he wants. And I mean that's, and I really do like that. Just seeing how throughout the series where he's tested on this, and it really does come across where he is kind of, where he is really starting to learn, and he starts to understand where people around him are coming from. He starts to kind of get into Mikasa's mindset. He obviously understands that she's just worried for him, but she also comes around to see that she should back off as well. She should let Eren be his own man, in a way. Then there's Armin. I don't know. A lot of people really like Armin. I was only okay with them. I don't know. It's just, I've always had an issue with the kind of whiny character, but I guess you can't really call him whiny. He's just a coward. He's not really a coward, because he'll fight, But it just seems like when things go wrong, he's the first one to really freak out. He's the first one to, you know, basically think the worst of things. Which I guess there are people, you know, there are people like that and everything, but it's just, I don't know, for some reason the way Armin was portrayed, it kind of came off bad to me. It's nothing against the writing of the characters, just for some reason it rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, if you like Armin, that's fine and everything, and you have your own reasons. In fact, you can go into those reasons in the comments and everything. Just tell me about it. But it's just that for me, I can't really find a fault with the character. He just rubbed me the wrong way, and it's one of those weird moments. Because I mean, I'll admit I got to like him later when I don't want to go into spoilers, but something happens to Eren. Armin gets down. But then later on he starts to realize, no, I have to step up. I can't be the one being defended by other people all the time. And that's what he does. He steps up and he starts becoming, like, I can't say more of a man. That's just more confident. We'll go with that. More confident, more sure of himself. And you know, it's good. And it was good to see that development in him. And I think that's when I started to like Armin. It's just that is when he started to, you know, he started to understand that, you know, hey, I can't be afraid all the time. I can't let other people do this stuff for me. And I really like that. You know, he finally learns that lesson. So that's where I can like Armin. It's just that for a lot of the time I was just like, I just wasn't that big on him through a lot of it, but let's see. I mean, there was as far as after the main three, there are a good set of, you know, side characters in this. Let me see. I'm just looking over the cast list real quick. Wait, is that who? Well, I don't know. Unfortunately, I can't. That's the only problem with me doing this a couple weeks after watching the show, is that now the characters' names and faces are starting to kind of run together, so it's kind of hard for me to pick them out. I definitely remember the main three. I will say that they are very memorable, even if like Armin rubbed me the wrong way or anything like that. They are memorable to me. I can definitely talk about Eren. I can talk about Mikasa. I can talk about Armin. I can talk about them. There was one other character that ended up being kind of a big deal later on that I can't remember her name, but she basically turned into the big plot device later, which is funny because I kind of figured out she was the big plot device. It's the big twist, is that there's somebody who's a major plot device later on that involves the Titans, that when you look at that's something going on, and you look right there. I figured it out like what, I want to say it was like 5 episodes before it was actually revealed. It was something like that, but let me think here. Anything else I can really talk? So, I mean, that's the thing. You know, I say they're not. You know, the side characters aren't really all that memorable, but to me they're not memorable. But they still add to the environment very well. You know, there's other very proud people. There's obvious assholes. There's people that are just sort of like that, not really thinking in the same way that Eren does, but more like they're willing, like they see where he's coming from, but are willing to give him that more realistic look at things while not just demeaning his way of thinking. They pretty much say, okay, yeah, here's how you're thinking, but remember, there's these factors. You have to remember this. And it provides good lessons for Eren along the way. So I mean, honestly, that's one of the things, is that, yeah, you can have 3 strong main characters, but you gotta have the supporting cast. That even if even if in my case I can't really remember them, I can't remember them individually. They're still there. They still do their job. They still help the main characters advance. That's one of the main roles of a supporting cast, is they're there to just to get the main characters going, is to get the main story, is to keep the main story going by helping the main characters move through it. So yeah, I think that's about as much time as I want to spend on the characters. Let me see, what else do I want to go with on this? I kind of talked a little bit about the world itself. Excuse me. Don't think this really falls into characters, but I guess I have to talk about this with this show. The Titans. The Titans themselves, they're kind of interesting in how, you know, they look human. They don't have, you know, but they're not human. Obviously, let's see, they can't be killed unless you do this like one specific spot on them. And you know, it's definitely, it's kind of weird because, I mean, you watch this, and because of developments later on, I can't really go into them because they are very spoilerish, but there are developments later on that go into pretty much, you know, what is the deal with the Titans? Why are they there? And why are certain ones there? And there's kind of some interesting aspects that do fall back into Eren, that fall into other humans as well, and it's kind of the dynamic of how the Titans work, of why the Titans attack, and why they solely focus on humans. Because like there's plenty of times where I saw where, you know, they just completely ignore like other wildlife. They only focus on humans. But yeah, that's kind of a whole discussion otherwise, when I can, you know, kind of not worry about spoilers, but that kind of leads into my issue with the story. And I think it's more the fact that you know, it's one of those things that's kind of comes with anime is that, you know, depending on how well it does on TV broadcasts and stuff, really dictates how much of the story is told or how the story is told. I mean, there was, because I mean, you can kind of go into examples of like way back in the day, Big O. In Japan, it didn't do that well, and when we got the first run, which kind of ended, but not really. But apparently, the American audiences loved it so much that, you know, they were commissioned to make a new series that did end it, as weird as that ending was. A more recent example, Dead Man Wonderland. You know what's weird, we never talked about that one, but I did watch that one, and I really enjoyed it. Apparently American audiences really enjoyed Dead Man Wonderland. It didn't do very well at all in Japan. And because of that, we're probably never going to see more of that story, and that's the example where we sort of got dropped off in the middle of the story. And it's probably never going to continue, which sucks. This show kind of does what Dead Man did. We got through this one major story, but it's pretty obvious that there's still way more of the world to talk about. In fact, there's this major plot point involving the house that Eren starts in at the beginning of the show that they're forced away from, that they want to try and get back to. They never get back to it, and they're apparently like a big key to dealing with the Titans is in his old house back in the original town, and I mean, I understand. And, you know, I understand, you know, it's TV limitation, or not TV limitations, but it's just that's all the time they had as far as their original runtime. And hopefully there's more anime to this. And I do understand I could go read the manga. I probably will go read the manga at some point. It's just that, you know, that's one of those things where if you only ever watch the anime, you're left just with if you're, you know, especially this first run. I need to double check to see if there is plans for a second season. I don't know if there is. You can correct me down in the comments if you've heard there are plans for a second run. But as of right now, I'm not aware of it. But if there is a second run, it'll be very welcome just in the story aspect, because there's still definitely things that they did not get to in their first run. And I almost wonder if maybe that was intentional to try and garner backup to get a second run, because there's definitely they still have you know the secret of Aaron. It's because it involves Aaron's dad. They still have Aaron's father's secret back in the original town that could possibly blow open the mystery of the Titans, blow the mystery of the Titans wide open, and it's, you know, it's just one of those things where it just I was really waiting to see that. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to know, okay, what is, where did they come from? Is there a way? Is there truly a way to completely, overcome this? To keep, to not have mankind completely go under. But we didn't get that in this first run, the first 25 episodes thing. Some people are probably saying, "Wait, weren't there 26?" There was a flashback episode in there. I don't count flashback episodes. But yeah, this first 25 episode run, it definitely got us into the world, got us introduced into the story, got us through a major plot point involving the idea of the Titans and how they work. But it didn't give us everything. And I guess that's what bothers me the most, is that I'm not sure if we're ever going to get everything. I mean, if you look at it self-contained, that's kind of the one thing that comes out of that is, if you self-contain it, like say there's no manga that continues the story or anything like that, if you just look at it as the anime, there is that one thing that you're probably going to come away from this really bothered by, of like, hey, what happened to that whole secret that was supposed to go like into the old house and find out about? Well, that never went into. So if this never got another run, there'd be no answers. And that's just how I feel. Is that it feels like it left off on. It just left all these questions that normally when you're left asking questions about something, that's a good thing, and you're fine with that. In this case, it feels like I'm asking questions, but not because they really made me think about something. I'm asking questions more along the lines of, oh, are we going to get more of this? Are we going to see the conclusion of this? Which, can be a good thing if there is another season coming. But if you're left off with that, it just kind of disappoints you. That really is just how I feel. I said at the beginning of the video, people are going to disagree with me, and I'm totally open to discussion about these sorts of things in the comments. Don't get into just insult, flame wars, whatever, in the comments. I definitely don't mind seeing discussion, but let me see. Is there anything else I can talk about? What else is there? Oh, I guess people want my opinion on this. The openings and endings. Both endings, we're okay. The openings, first one, yeah, it's a great opening. Everybody kind of expected that. The second one definitely matched what was going on at that time in the series. Just because by that time, there's a lot more of like going off, trying to, well, basically, I'm just saying, the first opening really brought up the idea, kind of brought you into the show, kind of brought in this whole idea of the Titans, and just really got you going like, oh yeah, what's gonna happen now? The second one was designed to be a very uplifting song, and I will say this, for a lot of the like really kind of darker things that happen in the second half of the show, I think that's kind of a welcome thing, is to have that kind of really uplifting, like very, very, yes, let's go after it no matter what happens sort of song to bring you into it. Yeah, that's kind of how I go on that. I will say I do like the first one a little bit more, but I don't say, but neither one's a bad song, bad animation or anything like that. I like the first one a little bit more, but they're both very, very good. Anything else I really need to go on about? Let me see. I talked a little bit about the animation, talked about the characters, talked about the story, story without going into spoilers, or at least my opinion on the story. I didn't really go into what the story is so much, but honestly, pretty much all you really need to know is 3 kids in this town. The Titans attack. They're forced out of the town, and then they decide to train to take on the Titans. That's the basic story. Everything else I think you need to see for yourself. That's pretty much what it is. Let me see. Talked about the characters. Talked about the. I don't know how much I went to the animation, but yeah, the animation was really good. I really liked it. I like the style that they went with. I like that. I definitely like when they're moving in the 3-dimensional devices. I love how they animated the movements in it. The Titans' movements and their look are very. I like how they're very different from from the humans and everything. Like, even though they look like humans, they move very differently. They don't. They're not just blown up giant humans. They're their own thing. They have their own movements. They have their own sounds and everything. There's obviously a whole, not their society, but there's obviously a mentality to the Titans of how they work, and it's really neat to see that. Let me think here. What else do we got? I don't know if there's really much else I can talk about. I've already gone on for half an hour on this, so I don't know. Maybe that just seems like about all I've really got on this. I mean, if there's something you feel like I should have talked about, or that you feel like I should have talked about, I don't know. Maybe maybe bring that up in the comments. If there's enough stuff that could definitely make for like a second video, maybe I'll go ahead and do that. Maybe I'll sit down, go through the comments and see what people thought maybe I should have gone into more. If it's something that I can't just simply answer with like responding to a comment, that might be an interesting way to do that, is do a second video with some other stuff. I think that's about it. So yeah, with that, that's me talking about Attack on Titan. If VM ever gets around to watching it, he'll do a video on it. You guys just go ahead, talk about stuff in the comments. Tell me if you have an opinion that differs from mine. See, just kind of elaborate on it. Let me see what you say on that. I definitely welcome seeing that kind of stuff. I welcome seeing good conversation on the topic of what's there in the comments. That's one of the reasons why we have that ability, is to discuss like this. So with that, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll see. Yep. I think I just need to go and start signing off now. So final words. Attack on Titan, good show. Not the greatest. I'm glad I saw it without being too overblown by a lot of the hype that is online. I did manage to avoid a lot of that, so that's why I came out of this a lot more positive. I will say, for some people who got it overhyped for them, it might disappoint. That is a possibility, so you just got to keep that in mind. So with that, I enjoyed the show. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if there's anything else you'd really like me to kind of go into more detail on. Hopefully I can help. Hopefully I can do that. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. This has been Tsuki. It feels lonely in here.